partido. Hoy juega México. Hoy ganamos. Bueno, despertándome aquí en Las Vegas, Nevada, 1 de agosto, he marcado este día en el calendario desde hace meses. México llegando a la Copa Oro, México ganando la Copa Oro, pero hoy empieza todo. México contra Estados Unidos en el Allegiant Stadium y estoy listo. Primero tenemos que ir al estadio, dejar todos los tambores, todas las banderas, y luego de ahí, durante el día, estar con toda la gente, con toda la raza, toda la gente mexicana que vino de muchas partes de aquí, Estados Unidos y de partes del mundo. Y hoy ganamos, papi. Unos 2-0, yo digo, para que les duela a los gringos. Bueno, ya voy para el estadio súper temprano con el cubrebocas aquí, pasando por el casino. Y bueno, a llevar el tifo, banners, los tambores. Ahí vamos a estar todos súper temprano. Ya vamos con las banderas y vamos con los tambores. Bueno, amigos, ya están las banderas, los tambores, el tifo, ya está todo listo. Regresando aquí al hotel, cambiarnos, ponernos la negra. Y bueno, seguimos con esto, vamos al tailgate. Se va a poner bueno hablar con los fans. ¡Viva México! Ahora sí, camino al estadio. El juego va a ser dificilísimo porque los gringos siempre nos juegan bien, son ordenados, con mucha disciplina. México teniendo problemas, casi no ganándole a Canadá, teniendo problemas con El Salvador. Va a ser súper importante que México meta gol primero en los primeros 15 minutos para no tener problemas. Pero ya saben, aunque tener un gol en el primer minuto en el último juego que jugaron, Estados Unidos ganó. Entonces, todavía digo 2-0, México, Funes Mori, metí uno de los 2 goles. Bueno, para allá. Ya por fin llegué al estadio, uno de los primeros en llegar. Aquí están los que van a perder en Estados Unidos. Y bueno, llegué, un calorón. México estamos.
3-1.
Dale.
3-1, hermano. Vamos a darle chance, que nos metan uno para que se ponga bueno el asunto.
Para que se ponga bueno. El mejor de los juegos es la carne asada. Comer rico y luego ir al estadio. No está el Chucky Lozano, pero lo trajiste. Sí, ahí está el Chucky Lozano. ¡El Chucky Lozano! Se gozó, se comió y bueno, a golear, a gustar y a ganar. Bueno, amigos, 90 Men ya fuera del estadio. México perdió 1-0. Merecido el triunfo de los Estados Unidos. Nos duele a nosotros mexicanos, especialmente con el equipo que tenía Estados Unidos. México decepcionó, estoy completamente, pues no enojado, pero uno quiere que su equipo le gane, especialmente cuando es superior. Pero México no pudo concretar ese gol, tuvo muchísimas chances, pero no puedo. Y aquí está la gente, que sigue aquí, la gente de Estados Unidos. Bueno, ¿qué pasa? No pasa nada, hay que seguir, las eliminatorias llegan y a ver qué pasa con México, que tiene que ajustar mucho. Digo, Estados Unidos no ha ganado una Copa de 2007 y regresamos a los años 2000 donde México domina, pero Estados Unidos gana esos partidos y sufre la gente mexicana. Bueno, amigos, así vivimos la Copa Oro desde Las Vegas. Muchísimas gracias, 90 Men, y nos vemos. Soy Luis Vázquez. Hasta la próxima. All right. Fan de oro como nuestros amigos from 90 Men. You know how hard it was to go outside the stadium after that video of me saying we're gonna win and have to send a video to our friends at 90 Men so they can edit it, and we lost?
Why am I so hyped and also so bummed out at the same time? I don't know.
Hey everybody, welcome to our edition of the Mexican Soccer Show. Did a little bit different right there, showing you a little bit of what I went through yesterday at the game. Allegiant Stadium, an amazing stadium, amazing fans, the field, the halftime show, the pregame show. Except the team didn't show up to win. And we're going to talk to everybody there. Cesar with a nice little haircut, looking good.
No, it's just I went on a jog again. So like right before the pot, I've been doing that. So I've been, just, been like super sweaty. So just like put my hair
It's
back.
just sweat. It's just sweat.
Or maybe you know what? Or maybe I'm still like sweaty and angry from yesterday because
Ah,
like I feel like I'm still trying to like I don't know like just trying to like I don't know like compose myself since that. But yeah, I'm here, ready to talk. But we're just gonna dive straight into the Olympics, right? Like,
Olympics. Let's
yeah,
go.
there we go. Nothing happened yesterday. There's nothing
Happened at
nothing
all. All
worth
right.
talking about from yesterday.
Mr. Owen. Owen's back joining us here at the Mexican Soccer Show. Owen, how are you? Feeling good?
Doing,
All right, you're
doing
smiling.
great despite the loss. Yeah, I mean, maybe to avoid talking about the Gold Cup. I mean, for me on the East Coast, the Olympic game starts at 4, so maybe I'll just knock off now to sleep,
Just go
and
to
then
bed.
not have to talk about the Gold Cup final that way, right?
Yeah. All right. Saying hi to everybody. Joanna Sanchez is always first on the chat. Golazo's also there. Chicken biscuits, and already maybe JB Mendoza saying no shade as a US men's national team fan. Been there many times. Keep chin up. You're right. Yeah. All right. Let's talk about it. Talk about the loss. And right off the bat, if there's anybody right now that's making excuses for Mexico, if we had like right off the bat, let's take that away, right? Mexico lost. The US is better at the moment. Resultados. Maybe the first game was a fluke. The final, against Nations League. This game, flat out, we cannot beat the US. And all right, just jump right in. Cesar, your thoughts?
I mean, yeah, let's.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to start the pod on silver linings and talk about like what I was happy about because that'd be we shouldn't do that. So I'll talk about what I didn't like, and I talk about the bad news and why fans should be angry. And why fans should be angry is that finishing was terrible, and it wasn't just Rogelio Funes Mori. I know a lot of fans are pointing fingers at him, but it was Orbelin, it was Tecatito, it was others. And the other thing that fans should be bothered about is I know a lot of people are recognizing that yes, this wasn't Mexico's best roster. Obviously, there was no Raul, no Chucky, no Guardado, no Ochoa, no Romo, Cesar. But there was a number of players who weren't there. But even with the roster that Mexico had, it was still superior to the one that the U.S. brought, and they should have woke up with the current roster. And they have no excuses. I think there's only so much that Tata can do in that first half when he's literally helped them set up to succeed, and they're playing great soccer and they're not scoring. But in that second half, you do have to question the manager when the team was lacking morale, was lacking energy, and what you need in that situation is for your manager to take control. So disappointed. I think there are some silver linings, but I think those are the things that disappointed me the most from Altity last night.
Well, this show today, we've always been really nice. Like I'm saying, like, take it off. Let's be angry. What needs to happen? Owen, come on. Tata, out. Fuera.
I need to find a new sport is what I need to do. Jeez.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously a really disappointing result. I think first to kind of give a stat to kind of back up what Cesar was saying about the difference in experience levels between this Mexico team and the United States team that we saw, which, a lot of people have been talking about, right? So starting lineups, 7 of the Mexicans started in the Nations League final, right? So seven carried over, right? And Funes Mori, I mean, there's an 8th there where Funes Mori right now is Tata's preferred center forward, right? The United States has 1 Nations League starter who starts last night in Las Vegas. So it's Kellen Acosta. In the whole squad for Mexico, 13 members of the Nations League squad carried over the Gold Cup. Really 15 if you consider that Jonathan Dos Santos and I believe Eric Gutierrez were also in that squad originally, had to pull out their injury, right? United States, 4 players. Right. So, I mean, we're dealing with the United States really almost a C team, right? Now, Mexico doesn't have their full A team, sure. And I think, where you're saying, Cesar, okay, you want to see a little bit more from Tata with some changes in the second half. I mean, Mexico, it's almost like their starting lineup, it was a lot of the A guys. And then on the bench, it drops to a C level. I think it's hard to criticize him for the changes. Who do you have to put on? He's bringing on Rodolfo Pizarro, who, I mean, given what he did against Canada, I think makes sense. I mean, that's kind of all that's there, right? You've got Efrain Alvarez, who hasn't played since the Trinidad and Tobago game, or hasn't played significant minutes since the Trinidad and Tobago game, who's still a teenager, right? So there aren't really options there. You're relying on someone who isn't having a good season into Miami, who has kind of been out of the picture now for the last few months. So I think that, it's threadbare right now without the players at the Olympics. Certainly the attackers who have been doing really well, and you hope for World Cup qualifiers will come in. Now, it's concerning that they're missing the chances, right? But I think even more concerning here is you have to take into account the level of the teams that they've been playing, right? Before this tournament started, if you had looked at the March friendlies, the pre-Nations League friendlies, the big concern was that they weren't creating chances. It wasn't that, we're creating all these chances and we're just not finishing them, right? And that was against a better level of team, right? The March friendlies, they play a decent Wales side. They play Costa Rica, who's always a difficult opponent for Mexico. They play Iceland, who, they're a middling European side, but they still struggle to create chances in that game as well. So I think that's a concern. It's like, okay, now, you're not finishing, but what happens if the level raises a little bit here in World Cup qualifiers, or again, thinking about a World Cup? And that's what it really comes down to. I'm not convinced that Mexico are going to be necessarily, continuing to create the volume of chances that we saw them create in this Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think at the same time, though, I think it's important to remember that if we're talking about silver linings, it's probably a little too early to talk about silver linings, but
not yet.
there are some players from the Olympics that you immediately look at them and think you should be able to immediately plug them in. And these aren't players who are unaccustomed to playing with L3. You should immediately be able to plug some of these players in and to really improve Mexico's chances in World Cup qualifying. I'm not saying that things are going to go smoothly in World Cup qualifying, because clearly we saw El Salvador, they're going to be tough. We saw Canada, they're going to be tough. Obviously, the U.S. men's national team are stepping up as well. I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. All I'm saying is that Mexico will have some better options in World Cup qualifying. And that is, I don't want to say good news, just because because it was obviously it was a failure to not win the Gold Cup. I think, even though it's weird because I feel like I can't say fracaso, but I feel okay saying failure, which is strange. It's just strange, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You failed. All right, you guys are too nice. We're too nice, guys. We are in deep.
I said it was a failure. I said it was a failure, didn't I?
Okay. This is an epic failure. This is probably one of the worst Gold Cup losses, if not the worst Gold Cup losses.
I don't know. What about?
Hold on.
Okay. Sorry.
Let me give you as to why. Sure, we've had Gold Cup losses before, but there've always been excuses. Let's say excuses, but when Juan Carlos Osorio left the Copa Oro, is because it was a better team going to the Confederations Cup. When Chepo de la Torre, also another better team. Mexico, although this is who we have, yes, it was because of injury. And even if you add in some of the Olympic guys, this is a team that we have. So we can't necessarily go, all right, well, we didn't choose to bring in Raul. We didn't choose to bring in Chucky. And I can definitely make a great team starting 11 of the people that are not here for sure, right? And it could be, yes. But at the same time, these players, these MLS players that were in the U.S., it's not like they were having a good tournament either. They were a bad team, barely beating Canada, barely beating Qatar. Like, the fact that we couldn't, score against this team, regardless, because of Funes Mori, didn't miss, or Orbelín Pineda, it's just, there's something there. And it's okay when you excuse it, but it kept happening over and over and over and over. So to me, yes, you can kind of look at, well, at least this is not the team that we're going to have in the qualifiers, but it's still an epic failure, and someone needs to answer. So, we can talk about like Tata as a whole, right? There's already this is what
I'll say. Like we saw you. It seems like, okay, if you like, it sounds like you we're not angry enough. So like, what else? Like, is it Tata? Is that what's like really bothered? Because I want to know like what else is. Obviously other than the lot. Yeah.
Ultimately, I think it is Tata, right? That's who ultimately has to answer to this, right? Because there's some players on there that probably shouldn't be called anymore, right? And even though we've seen them, they did well. Like, they've had a bad tournament. Gallardo had a bad tournament, right? Tecatito had a bad tournament. Guys, they didn't score against Concacaf teams this tournament. We're waiting for this great Tecatito, to come out playing in Europe. What has he done in this entire tournament? Like, if we could say, like, Chaka had a good Gold Cup. Like, if we look at all the players that we had, Talavera had okay. Moreno looked slow. Araujo, this is our European defense. Looked old, looked gas. We talk about Salcedo. It had a horrible tournament. Jonathan Dos Santos is still not a player that, I mean, even though he's injured, just didn't perform outside of that goal. I mean, we go to, obviously the subs, Pizarro, Pulido, I mean, they really didn't do anything. Funes Mori had a horrible game yesterday. I'm just trying to go on like, Tata, yeah, the problem is that he can't get his players to perform after all these games. Who do we beat? Guatemala? Honduras with it was a bad Gold Cup, and I think it just kept, we were, thinking that that Mexico was just gonna run through it, and we were wrong. I was wrong.
I think it's fair. I think it's fair for fans to have the feeling, and like obviously it's fair for I was angry. I'm not gonna lie. I was definitely pretty bothered last night watching that, and especially with some of that finishing. But I don't know. I feel like it's not black or white here. It's not, even though I said it was a failure to not win the Gold Cup, but for some odd reason, I'm not going to say it was an entire fracaso. If that kind of makes any sense, and it's a little bit of a level higher.
You should have lost to Canada. I didn't get to the final and lose against the U.S. I'd rather have lost to Canada in the semi.
I just wonder what kind of conversation we'd be having right now if Matt Turner wasn't doing his best, Carlos Acevedo or Luis Malagon impression in net. I was, or I'd be or if one of those opportunity that Rogelio Funes Mori had, where he chested and he kind of turned around and it almost when it was he was an awkward position, but that was an excellent opportunity right there. And I just wonder what would be the conversation we'd be having right there, especially leading up into the Olympics, where Mexico's going to be taking part in the semifinal match against Brazil, and we'd be hyped up, we'd be excited, we'd be like, "Oh, we're kings of Concacaf once again." And I think that I don't know. I think it's not black and white.
I don't think so. Even if 1-0, sorry to stop you. Even if it was 1-0, even if we would have won 1-0, I don't think we'd be happy for this team. Even if for whatever reason we scored after Orbelín Pineda, right, in that second half towards the end, scores that, we would have been like, wow, we barely beat a bad, a U.S. team that barely beat really bad teams in the world stage, right? Like that's the thing. Now I'm realizing that we were pretty lucky going through, right? The game in Canada kind of showed it, how fast we just, the psychology of the game. And Amy and I yesterday before the game, we go, I have a bad feeling, and this is, obviously we tweet out. I'm like, I have a bad feeling about this.
But
game.
you woke up and you're like, "Hoy gana Mexico," right?
Right? And you have to have that color. As a fan, you want to make sure you do it. But I'm telling you, Amy, I'm like, do you have a bad feeling about this game? Yeah, because it reminds me of, and I tweeted out the 2000s where we have pressure when we're supposed to win against the U.S. We just. And we don't, because now we got to win. And I thought it would change with Tata, but I didn't see any confidence from those players yesterday. Owen, to you.
I think you guys have touched on a little bit. I think, using the word failure, I think is appropriate, less for the actual final in isolation, more for the fact that the whole tournament was pretty poor for Mexico. I mean, you're picking out, okay, the first half against El Salvador, they looked good. As good as they looked in that first 55 minutes, they looked just as bad in the closing stages of that match, right? If not worse. Looked great against a decimated Honduras team. Certainly, in the first half, they win that match going away. But other than that, there's really not a lot to write home about generally. So I think that's the really concerning thing. Touching on the United States, I mean, definitely not spectacular, but they figured out a way to play those important games with, their B/C team, we could say, and they executed that well. They beat Canada 1-0, they beat Jamaica 1-0, they beat Qatar 1-0, and then they beat Mexico 1-0.
They barely,
a somewhat speculative style. I mean, sure, if Qatar finishes their chances, if Mexico finishes their chances, I mean, you can, neither of those teams did though.
Yeah,
and also did well. I mean, I think
if I was in the U.S. soccer show,
right now, I think okay. So now breaking it down a little bit more. I mean, there's Cesar going over these kind of players who look, or both of you going over players who look poor individually here for Mexico. I mean, I think it has to be mentioned, for example, I mean, Jonah Dos Santos with his father,
Of
the
course.
whole situation there,
Yeah.
right? Hector Moreno wasn't playing at Algarafa at all, right? Because there was something in his, I'm not exactly sure what the situation was, but
he's not
I think there was some clause there where if he reached a certain number of games, he was gonna, they were gonna have to pay him extra or whatever. It triggered something in the contract, right? So he hadn't played for like a matter of months before he came back into the fold this summer. He injures himself against Honduras on June 12th, is out for a whole month, right? I mean, he's just coming back, really, right? I mean, this is his third or fourth game back. He's basically been inactive for months, essentially, right? He's had a few games recently, right? So situations like that where the players that you're playing, the players that are in this 11 at the Gold Cup are not in the best form, right? Now, I think the concerning thing here is you're looking at, or the worrisome thing, just more existential, right? More big picture, is the United States with that B or C team, playing again a speculative style, not a pretty style. They managed to beat a Mexico, a Mexico with a lot of A team players in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mexico, it seems like, and this has happened before in summers where they've had a Copa America and a Copa Oro, for example, right? And they haven't been able to really dedicate put a team out in both of those tournaments that can really compete, right? What's going on where Mexico, a country with such a soccer mad country, such a big population, a high level league like Liga MX, can't produce enough players for two teams? I think that's somewhat concerning. You're looking at the United States now, okay, a bigger population, but probably fewer players, probably fewer young kids who are interested in soccer. Or certainly probably not a whole lot more, right? And they suddenly you're looking, okay, they've got 2, maybe even 3 teams that can compete. I think that's worrisome for Mexico. We're saying now, okay, maybe a team and a half for Mexico.
I don't know if we're going to the future that the U.S., I still, as much as the U.S. beat us, I still don't see this great U.S. team. Sorry, in either both. I think Mexico really had just a horrible Gold Cup, and it's not like the U.S. was just going through everything. So we can talk about the future in another podcast of what we're seeing on it. But specifically for this, and let's get into the Tata conversation. Here's where I kind of want to paint the picture to you guys.
All right.
Tata has now lost the Nations League final. Regardless, that's one final. Guardado missing the PK, bad defending on set pieces. Okay. Not that it was a fluke because, hey, they won, right? All right. Now, we all saw the Gold Cup. We saw the teams in the Gold Cup. Now Tata loses against the U.S. and another final. The pressure is on, right? The pressure is on because here comes the qualifiers. And now we're going to bring our better players. You're seeing Raul scoring goals. Hopefully Chucky can come back. Hey, Guardado, who I thought should have been at the Gold Cup. He had an injury that was there. Ochoa coming back. Sprinkle a few of the Olympic athletes, right? And, okay, we have the qualifiers. But now pressure is on, right? The first 3 qualifiers, 2 of them are away from are with no fans, right? Which is Jamaica and Canada, and then away in Costa Rica. It goes Jamaica at home, who Jamaica is bringing in some EPL players and are going to play us. The very first game, closed doors at the Azteca. You tie that one. Then you go to Costa Rica. Going and winning Costa Rica in qualifiers is going to be really hard. You lose that one. Then you have Canada, right? Another game outside of I think that one's in Mexico too. Closed doors, and you tie that one. And we have 2 points, last almost 4 or 5 of the octagonal, and pressure starts building for Tata. It starts being like Chepo in 2013. And what happens when we've seen this? When the players don't believe, when they're tired, and that first week of 3 games in around 8 days is going to be. We needed this momentum for people to start realizing, all right. But when pressure starts happening, and coaches like Tata, who, listening to his press conference yesterday I was like, what are you saying? I mean, it's like, yeah, we'll take the criticism, but I think we're okay. I'm like, no, we can't find any, just because Chucky and Raul are gone, we have nobody we have no answer for it. So people are saying, absolutely not. James, I don't know. No. So
I'm not pushing the panic button yet, because I think in my mind, like I think looking at this current year, obviously, like Tata said it himself, he said that the Olympics are going to be the priority, and although winning the Gold Cup was still like there's still a plan for it. They were supposed to they'd work out. But here's the thing: is just that like in this year, in this very very busy year, and Mexico tends to have some pretty busy soccer years, but this is even busier than normal. I think you're leading up to the World Cup qualifiers. You're leading up to that opportunity, and I think now you take these lessons from the Gold Cup, from that Nations League final, and then you apply them to World Cup qualifying with idea in theory with your best roster. So I'm not hitting the panic button just yet, especially when those games and I know it wasn't thrilling. I know some of the soccer Mexico was playing wasn't exactly thrilling, but I think that those margins in those lost to the United States were quite small. I know would it be an A, B, C, T, whatever, those margins were still quite small. And I think that it still looks good for Mexico heading into World Cup qualifying. Now, if they have issues in the first few games, if they have issues against Jamaica, Costa Rica, Panama, I think that's when the serious questions arrive. I think that's when I'm not going to say that fans aren't allowed to seriously criticize them just yet, but I think that's when you can truly start to question what's happening here. Because looking back in this final, if we're just looking at that game in isolation, I might be wrong. I know maybe I am too nice in life to begin with anyway, so maybe that's why I have this perspective. But I thought they played good soccer in that first half. I thought they were clearly the better side. I know the finishing. Oh, it was stressful to watch some of that poor finishing, but I thought the buildup was great. And then you kind of think to yourself, and I have my questions about that in the second half, not about his subs, but more so of his ability to re-motivate the players, because you saw Greg Berhalter like yelling nonstop out there, and in the second half, I'm not entirely sure about Tata there, but in the first half, I don't know, like what else could he really do? He can't step onto the field and score himself, So I don't know. I'm feeling.
You're saying that you like Mexico, kind of. They did.
I thought the first half was good.
No, they did play.
Yeah.
Yes, the scoring chances were better for the U.S.
No.
In the first half. In the first half, the United States.
First half was
the It was basically just Paul. Yeah.
That was almost scored.
That was an isolated incident. I mean, that was probably the best chance of the first half, but that was an isolated incident off of Mexico mistaken possession.
But that's what their game plan was at the whole time. Let Mexico go back and forth in possession, 69% possession, and the U.S. all pelotazos, and they almost scored. Yes, Mexico looked better because they had possession. Possession doesn't necessarily mean that they're the better team.
They were creating good chances. At times, they even looked like they're trying to pass them back the net. I'm not, like I said, I wasn't happy about yesterday.
They looked better just because.
I think the more concerning thing is that, and Tata talked about this in some of the press conferences leading up to the match, how we need to be better. We need to manage the moments when we're not on top in the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think. You've now seen it twice in this tournament, right? Even against Canada. I mean, really 3 times. When Mexico, second half against Canada, second half against El Salvador, second half against the United States, there comes a moment where the momentum turns, right, against Mexico. And at that point, they never get back on top in the game, right? And you're saying, Cesar, okay, I mean, Tata's not a very demonstrative presence, right? I don't think we're going to suddenly get, or should we want to get like a Tata who's going to be shouting and screaming on the sideline? I mean, that's just not his personality, right? But there's something going on there, I think, beyond the fact that, okay, they're just getting outplayed, right? They can't, once they lose control of those games, they're not able to work their way back into it in any meaningful way. And I think that's really concerning, because you're going to be, you're going to be going to tough places in World Cup qualifying. You're not going to have it all your way. You can't expect to be on top of those games in World Cup qualifying for 90 minutes, right? And you're going to have to figure out how to wrestle control back of those matches if you want to win them and get points, whatever. And I think that's, big picture, we can talk about, okay, missing chances defensively, a lot of errors, problems, building out from the back at times, but more just mentally, you need to be able to pick yourself back up when the other team has punched you in the mouth.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the lessons that Mexico can take to World Cup qualifying. I think that's some sort of the constructive criticism that they can apply to World Cup qualifying, and which is why I don't know. I think because World Cup qualifying, it starts literally next month. I think, and my prediction is, and my predictions are usually pretty off. I'm guessing by the end of September, we're not going to be. Well, I guess it would be mid-September because the game's on the 2nd, the 5th, and 8th. I feel like the loss to the U.S. will be, I don't know. We're not. That's not what we're going to be talking about. That's not what we're going to be worried about. That's going to be.
What are you talking about? Mexican press is just going to continue. Like,
No, but it'll be because it's the Mexican press. As soon as Mexico gets those 3 games, we're like, oh, like the true gigantes of Concacaf are back. Like I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
No, the press, believe me, man. It's going to start. Pressure has started already. The Fuera Tata will start. The good thing is that the FMF they're making the proceso for Tata continuing. I'm not saying Tata should be done. That's not what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
One, because there is nobody to replace him. Absolutely not a single coach right now is ready to coach El Tri that we know that could or would want to coach El Tri. So let's get that out of the way. Anybody that's saying, Jaime Lozano, absolutely not, right? It's the difference between U23 teams in the Olympics. What has Jamie done? He's a cool guy, but, let's see what happens today, right? And we'll get to that right there. But no, there's nobody ready. Aguirre maybe coming back. No, there's nobody right now. So what I'm saying is that here comes the pressure that always happens to qualifying for Mexico. We're gonna make the World Cup for sure, right? I don't have a doubt in my mind, but it's just gonna start that snowball of. And it all started because you could not win a Gold Cup that should have been won.
Yeah, this isn't the first time we haven't.
No, but I thought this was going to be different. Yeah. Looking at the summer, here's like a free throw would say, right? No real good team in the Gold Cup. You're bringing most, the starters. You're bringing your Europeos defense, your Talavera. You're bringing in Chucky. Obviously, you know what happened, and then we should win this tournament. Okay, that's a win after what happened in the Nations League. Here comes the qualifiers. All right, Olympics should be doing well. We should have had a great summer, but no. And then Tata, just throw it out there. Now that we're seeing it, Tata in finals have a really bad record when it comes to Tata in finals and tournaments, with Argentina losing to Chile, right? With I think he lost in
I don't know if I buy into that too much. I'm saying that as someone who hasn't seen some of those finals, but that kind of seems kind of like this arbitrary kind of like, I don't know, anti-Tata kind of argument. I could be wrong, maybe.
Both the Copa America finals were on a knife edge, right? And I think looking ahead to the rest of his, certainly through Qatar, let's hope he gets them to a World Cup final in Qatar, right? But it's like he's not going to be probably contesting another final.
Let's go.
He's not going to be contesting another final between now and Qatar.
Let's go lose the World Cup final.
The point about him not being able to win finals, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sure, he's lost the majority of the finals he's played in, but that's not something
he's only won one final. He's only won one final.
I feel like that's kind of arbitrary. I don't know.
In the 5 or 6 final, I think he's only got one final win, and that was against the U.S. 2 years ago in 2019. All right, I'm done. I needed to get that out with the whole. Let's turn it around. I have my love shirt on today. All right, let's turn around. What are the?
Does it say Tata underneath?
Yeah, just say love. I'm just saying that I've seen this before, and it could go badly really, really fast. And it's not even because we're a bad team. It's because everything outside of what happens with the teams. Let me just throw this out there. The Tata doesn't want Chicharito, and I get it, right? There's things that he did, right? Tata also said no to Vela in the Olympics, right? If you get a coach out there that goes, hey, that knows it and says, I can bring in Chicharito, I can bring Vela, heck, I can convince Luis Montes. Like if you're getting another coach that has better relationships, sign me up. If Piojo says Vela played for me, I can get Vela to play again. Like there is something with Tata that I was 100% sure. This is our coach. Now I'm seeing it could go badly really, really fast.
Yeah, and in defense of what you're saying there, whether you like Tata or not, whether you support him or you're heavily critical of him, unfortunately for him, because he's lost twice to the U.S. now in these major games, that now means that he's going to be given a shorter leash in World Cup qualifying. And I mean, I'm not gonna say it sucks, but like if he does literally lose that first match, he's gonna be in the hot seat. That's just that's the reality of this position. Yeah, that's the reality of this position that he's in. And yeah,
but a tie in the Azteca versus Jamaica in the first loss, 3 days later you go into Costa Rica.
Yeah. So he's be given a very short leash. Yeah,
it's perfect. It's that perfect, and that's what I'm saying. That perfect combination of things can go really bad really fast. I believe it goes the 3 matches, and man, now I think El Salvador.
It says okay. So Mexico, Jamaica at home, Costa Rica away, Panama away.
Panama. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. So it goes, and then it goes Canada, right? Away.
And then we host Canada and host Honduras.
Okay.
I mean, those away games, yeah.
Yeah, you tie against Jamaica, you lose against Costa Rica. I mean, let's throw it out there. I would not think that we could beat Costa Rica in Costa Rica, right? Not with the team that we've seen. We tie against Jamaica, then we go into Panama, who these are hard, tough games, right? Then Honduras is actually looking really good with the players that they have, right? Playing really well. Is it in Honduras, right?
Yeah, actually, that'll be at the Azteca.
So that's a close game too, right?
Yeah. And then no, because of the first, because this could be Mexico is going to play a close game against Jamaica, and Mexico is going to play a close game against Canada. I think Honduras will be the first one on October 10th. That won't be behind closed doors, but still, no. But it's a tough schedule. I understand it. But here, I mean,
1, 2, 3, boom. All right, now we're
well. Let's see what happens, though. I mean, let's see what happens. I think
we're gonna have to see what happens, Owen.
I think one thing that we can't deny is that the honeymoon period is over, right?
Yeah,
he had a long,
we're like
2.5 years of basically, not praise from all corners. I mean, but almost universal, right? And I think with the 2 finals this summer, that's officially over, right? And now, like you were touching on, Cesar, I think a bad result or two to start off this qualifying cycle is not going to go down well, and it's going to put him under pressure. I mean, I think it's good for the FMF to keep him in the job. I mean, you can't fire him for losing these 2 finals, right? But if they're at risk of losing the cash cow of World Cup qualification, I mean, there's gonna, they're gonna be a lot more likely to act quickly, right? If it looks like that might be at risk.
Yeah, 100% agreed.
Sorry, guys. Somebody's telling me to speak louder. Apologies. I came in here like 5 minutes before I just landed. So if you guys can hear me good, I'll speak louder. I'll keep yelling.
Yell even louder.
Yell even louder. All right. So it's not the end of the world, okay? Right? At least in the US, it hurts. By the way, for some of you guys that are in the Gen Z, now you're starting to see what we, the old folks from the 2000s to the 2010s, really suffered against the US. Still don't think that they're better than us from 2000, 2010. But when you face the US, might not be able to win. Like that's what Cesar, you remember, right? Here comes the US. Then you pinpoint that qualifier against the US in the Azteca, and you're going like, if they beat us in the Azteca, it's the end of the world. That's it. Like,
remember even as a kid, actually, like in the late 90s, because people talk about like the early 2000s, but in the late 90s, I think that's what kind of like in my mind turned it into the U.S. men's national team or the bad guys, because they actually did quite well against Mexico in the late 90s and obviously in the early 2000s. But I don't know, this isn't anything new. And I will say, though, I think silver linings, I guess I love those. Another silver lining here, though, is that I think it's still in the best interest of Mexico to have a good U.S. men's national team. And I think it's in the best interest of the U.S. men's national team to have a good Mexico. And I think that if Mexico is going to continue to be in the Concacaf region, and I know it's good to see that the other teams are really stepping up, and I'm glad to see the region getting stronger because you're seeing examples of that. But it's still very, very good for all three to have a very good U.S. men's national team roster, because that is best way to prep for massive
about
tournament like
Korea,
like the World Cup.
We
I know,
barely
but
play them. We barely play them. If we were playing them week in and week out, then
no. But what about this? We're going to play them 3 times this year. I don't know. It's like I think it's good prep.
Pulisic and Di Reyna, like that's not necessarily going to make us better.
I think it's good too. Because, I mean, even though they definitely sat back a little more defensively, but I think yesterday. But I think when they have their full roster, I don't think they'll be nearly as afraid to sit back. And I think Mexico, it's good for them to play against opponents like that because they can't go up against CONCACAF opposition that are going to be sitting back every single game for World Cup qualifying. Then they qualify for the World Cup, and then suddenly they're going to have to get to play counterattacking soccer against very good teams. So I think it's good for Mexico for the U.S. to continue to thrive, and hopefully you would hope that it inspires Mexico to kind of pick up their pace as well. But that remains up in the air.
No, I think you're right. I think it's good. The better the other teams in CONCACAF are, the better it is for Mexico, right?
Yeah.
You want that competition, especially now that Mexico isn't participating in Copa America. I mean,
no Confederations Cup,
right? Yeah. If the better MLS gets, the better it is for Liga MX, right? And for Mexican soccer in general, right? I mean, especially now. I mean, the United States is probably the best team Mexico are going to be playing. It's certainly in a competitive game between now and Qatar. But also, you look, okay, Mexico.
Is this Owen? Owen! I didn't mute him, I promise.
Oh, we're
Wait,
back.
I think you're back.
I was saying, Mexico are tied up with qualifiers. The thing at the back end of 2020, it's like, oh, great, we're playing these friendly games against good European teams in Europe or against, a Japan, South Korea, right? Good national teams in Europe. All those teams are tied up now with qualifiers from now until, I would say March before Summer World Cup, but let's say whatever. So that would be, August 2022, right? Where you can maybe play, or, October 2022, where you can maybe play a couple friendlies, warming up for the World Cup. But it's CONCACAF teams from now until the World Cup, essentially, right? So the better the competition is, that will improve Mexico's level, hopefully. And hopefully they make it through and are better for it at the World Cup.
I'm going to disagree with both of you because normally playing better teams makes you better, right? Somebody said it, iron sharpens iron, right? The difference is that you're not necessarily playing better teams. We've always struggled with bad teams in Central America. We have lost in El Cuscatlan. We have lost in Honduras. We have lost in Panama, in Costa Rica. We've lost in Columbus. The qualifiers are a completely different animal, not because we're playing good teams. Just because the travel, the food, the waking up, the instalaciones, the no hot water, the serenatas, like it is a bad environment. Uruguay could not be. This is Uruguay in 2010, who was it third place? Could not beat fourth. Could not beat Costa Rica in Costa Rica. This is not. If it was, we're facing good teams, and granted, I don't want to. Canada's got their players in USA, but I don't necessarily think that playing in these qualifiers against these, let's say, good teams is going to make us a better team because it'd be different for every week. What's going to make us good is if our players in Europe are playing good football. And then
obviously that would help too. I do think that regardless of how you feel about those teams, whether you think they're bad, whether you think they're okay, whether you think they're decent, and I'm definitely I think most of them are actually quite decent. I think that they are improving, and I think that's still a good thing. Whatever level you think they're at right now, I think a lot of those teams are improving, and I still think Mexico's going to qualify for the World Cup. I think that they're going to be fine. But they will have trouble against El Salvador. They will have trouble against Canada, and not just in those away games. In some of those home games, they're going to be pretty close because I think Mexico should be taking these teams lightly, especially Canada. Because I think I mentioned it in the last pod, but I feel like Canada recently. I don't know. I think they. We'll see what Alphonso Davies can do. And not only just him, but I think they recently kind of pushed Costa Rica out of that third spot in the CONCACAF region, and I think that they're they're inching closer towards Mexico and the United States, and that's good. And I think that's good. I think that's good.
You guys, like, I am
I think it's
so
good.
mad against it. Like, Canada barely did something against Mexico in Gold Cup, and people are saying that
they're missing some
a ton
players.
of good, missing
But
their
even
two
if they
best
are
players
missing, guys,
and a
World
bunch of
Cup
other players.
qualifiers, I guarantee you, I don't think Canada goes to the World Cup. Telling you,
Oh, they're going. I get that.
World Cup qualifiers are a different animal. Canada's do not have the experience to go into Mexico City, to go into Costa Rica, to go into, like, that's what I'm telling you. Like, it is a whole animal, and who knows who's going to be first. And I want to see the U.S. having these great players go to Mexico City and, again, go into El Salvador and try to get a point in there. So I can't tell you who's going to win, but when people are saying, oh, Canada's already taken Costa Rica is very dangerous. Like, I'm just throwing it out there. Don't put somebody saying already, because Honduras can surprise, Costa Rica can surprise, we can crash out, the U.S. can have a problem, because, again, I'm also looking at this U.S. team, and they still have not beat a good team.
I would say, well, I guess that's the magic. I was about to say the magic of the hex.
Mexico isn't a good team then?
No, not right now. Let's look how
the Nations League final. I think that was a good Mexico team. I thought Mexico played well there for
Mexico.
For a lot of
we
that
barely beat Costa Rica in penalty kicks. A bad Costa Rica. Like, I think both teams, the U.S. has gotten the results. I think there's something going on with Mexico they need to realize. I think we have better players than anyone in our region, for sure, right? And the Olympic side is coming in. But I was talking to some U.S. journalists and asked them, what's the best U.S. that you've seen, right? And they both said, against Mexico. And I'm looking at it, they didn't look that great. Mexico just didn't create their chances. It could have been totally out there. So as much as the U.S. is right now, and give them credit because they beat us, I don't necessarily think they're going to, fly through the qualifiers, because apparently they just beat the kings of Concacaf. So it's going to be crazy. Qualifiers,
either way, it's going to be. I mean, that's the magic of the, once again, as I say, the hex, almost the second time in a row. The octagon. Throw down some gloves. Going, yeah.
I mean, that's one thing.
Rizzo
it's
said,
tough.
Saying Canada wouldn't stand a chance against Mexico, and look how close that was. Rizzo, calm down. It is true. I admit it. I didn't think Canada, with a royally bad defense that I watched, I'm like, Mexico is finally gotten the rhythm after Honduras, after what they did, and I was 100% sure, easy peasy, never been like more sure about Mexico winning. They did win, but they struggled, right?
I'm saying the person who probably enjoyed watching Mexico the most last night was Alphonso Davies. He's like, against these fullbacks? All right, let's go. I'm guessing he was probably hyped, man. He was probably hyped.
It's funny, like, we've
Definitely a
seen these
mismatch.
CONCACAF teams like come in, and even though Alphonso Davies got 2 years ago. It's not like in 1 year, 2 years, he's like just this amazing player. Like, Alphonso Davies didn't look good against Mexico either. So I get it, right? We'll see what happens. Okay, so the good. Let's talk about, fine. We'll take it off. I'm calmed down. Let's talk about the good. We know the players of the Olympics, right? We've seen. Look at Alexis Vegas. At what's happening. Diego Lainez. Sprinkle some of those players in there. And I think, Owen, you made a really good comment. We might have our team, but our backups were like C and D, right? Those. I mean, we were looking at Tata. I mean, Pizarro not playing. Pulido. It just Sepulveda came in for what, and then we have a problem. But I think we start sprinkling into the players that are there, and Chucky and Raul Jimenez coming back is going to make us like, that's my hope. It's the fact that when they do come back, that's who Tata was looking for this whole summer, right? I mean, when we're looking at 2019, his whole scheme for this team was to have Chucky and Raul score, right? Or Tecatito there, like that. Raul was the main guy. When that's gone, he tried to find replacements with his system, and it just didn't work out. So hopefully, right, Chucky looks like he's be coming back soon. Raul scoring a goal, looking a lot better. Right now, he starts sprinkling in the Olympics guys. Ochoa is coming back. Guardado is coming back. The only kind of problems that I see is our defense. Because, like I said in my stand-up yesterday, we're looking old. I'm a little worried. Although, looking at everything, I mean, I couldn't give you a good starting, back in the four right now that I'm confident for. And I think that's going to be, aside from Chaka's going to stay there. Chaka's going to continue. He's going to be in the World Cup. That's so we'll see.
Once Osorio leads us to the World Cup after Tata
say
gets
Osorio,
fired,
right?
Shaka's be right there.
Riding
Team
fast
captain.
on his white horse.
Sorry, and I said Piojo brings back, like, what if Osorio comes back and says, hey, Vela wants to play. Chicharito did really well under me. Funes Mori, sure, why not? We'll do that.
I mean, I think to your point about having Raul and Chucky back. I mean, I think Chucky will definitely be back. I was just reading something before we came on the air, though. Raul saying he's still not ready for 90 minutes. I don't think he's going to be. I think certainly the September qualifiers. No. I don't think he's going to be in the starting lineup. I don't think he's ready. We'll see for the ones after that. So I think you have to think, okay, what's the plan here to get as many points as possible in the September qualifiers? I don't think Raul Jimenez is going to figure in that.
No, he's
potentially off the bench, but there's still, the Olympic players will be able to come in and lend a hand. But I think, the idea that certainly the big reinforcement, aka Raul Jimenez, is coming in right now to save Mexico, and their offensive issues is misguided.
Who in the Olympics could take the starting 11? Everybody's healthy. Everybody, Raul, Chucky. I don't see anybody in the Olympics taking a spot from anybody.
I'd put Cesar Montes in there alongside Moreno. I think
Cesar
you have to give him a chance, given the defensive issues.
I think Arteaga definitely. I think he earns a starting spot. Obviously, Ochoa. Obviously he's in the mix. Yeah.
Outside. I'm talking about the young guys.
I think Charlie Rodriguez, he could potentially sneak in. Luis Romo, I would not be surprised if a few months down the line, if we're talking about Luis Romo being like, I don't know, like he somehow took over like Guardado's spot despite Guardado's like seniority. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Luis Romo.
Would you do it right now? Like everybody, I don't have anybody that can go 100% yes.
I think Arteaga, yes. I think Cesar Montes, yeah. Arteaga over Gallardo. I'm just very, very uneasy about Gallardo now. But I think this is good. This is a good. I think this is a good thing, though. I think this is a good. I would be more worried if you were to ask me, and I'd be like, I don't know, man. Like nobody. Like I'd be worried actually if I didn't have an answer for that. So I think that's a good thing. And looking ahead into the Olympics, I know we talked about how Mexico is perhaps not at the level that we want them to be at going into World Cup qualifying. But can you imagine for some of these young players, for the opportunity, they've already had the Olympics, but just the confidence they're going to have, the opportunity they're going to have, maybe some European teams will be giving them a look. I'm saying some of these players are going to go immediately to Europe after this, but it's kind of going to help, I don't know, their stock in the world game. And you're thinking about some of these young players who could potentially take this momentum from the Olympics over towards a World Cup qualifying. I don't know. I feel pretty confident.
Everybody keeps saying Romo. The
problem maybe.
You cannot. Somebody Alexa, you cannot take out Herrera right now, and I don't think you can put
Edson. No. I think that's Romo's. I mean, first of all, Romo's 26. He's not. He's one of the overage reinforcements, right? So I think.
Oh, you're right. You know what?
You have to mention that in this discussion, right? I mean,
of course.
I think he's hurt by the fact that I think Mexico's two best performers over the Gold Cup and probably throughout this summer are kind of his two direct competitors for a spot in the midfield, right? In Edson and Ache. I think that's his real problem. I think he's good enough to play to start for the full senior side, but against those two, it's tougher for him, right? Let's see if he gets a move to Europe this summer potentially and does well. But I think I don't think he starts over either of those two.
No, he doesn't.
Like you were saying, Cesar, I think maybe Guardado or Charlie. But then you have to figure out, okay, I mean, you've got none of those three then are really like a number 10 or a more attacking midfielder, right? I mean, Ache was doing a lot of that at the Gold Cup, but that's not where we're maybe more accustomed to seeing him, right? I think then there's a question of, okay, you've got three players who kind of all play somewhat similar to each other, right? Who all want to kind of sit a little. I mean, Romo, yes, does play some as a 10 for Cruz Azul, but he's best more as an 8 who arrives into the box, right?
Yeah. Agreed.
That's
And
Yeah.
so
problem
who,
right
who
there.
do you then play as the most advanced midfielder? I think it potentially creates a problem tactically with those three.
Yeah, somebody's asking, somebody here, why wouldn't you be able to play Edson, Romo, and Herrera? You will never be going forward. Like
Or yeah, I just yeah.
That's why Romo. Yes, you injure Herrera, boom, Romo, and it's a great replacement. Right? Edson, no one takes Edson's spot. There isn't anybody even close to him. He'll continue to play that. Then we get into that midfield. Charlie has had I don't think he's dropped his level for a while. I mean, the Charlie from last year, before the pandemic, I thought Charlie had a chance. I'm seeing him now in the Olympics, and it's not like he's having a great Olympics. So I don't see him starting in the middle. I think continuing in there with Jonah, like Eddie maybe can go in there, but he's not, in the sub-23. So I don't necessarily see anybody from the Olympics going in. Alexis Vega right now, in what he was doing, I don't think he starts over either, because you remember you have Tecatito on one side, you have, but Tecatito doesn't start doing what he's supposed to be doing. And, normally you see a Diego Lainez in there, but, and Alexis Vega is what he's doing. So it's not like the Olympics are going to, magically make a lot better, because these players are very talented players. It's just that Tata's not getting they're all not gelling in the way that they're supposed to.
I don't know. I think Mexico will be fine. I think even if they were to, right now, let's say they lose to Brazil tonight and then they go up against Japan or Spain, and let's say they don't win that either. I wouldn't say that would be entirely a failure for Mexico in the Olympics, and I still think that was would be a very, very, I don't know, I guess I guess a fulfilling summer for some of those players. So I know I think it I actually think it wouldn't be too difficult to transition in some of those players back into Tata's system, especially since it seems like I said, I'm saying this is based off some of like what I've read, because I've only watched the highlights for some of the Olympic games, and I'm going to somehow try to stay up for tonight's game and watch the first one live at the tournament. But it seems like the system that Jamie Lozano and the one that Tata are using aren't too different. It looks like it's still kind of the same 4-3-3 setup, where you have the defensive midfielder stepping a little bit further back behind the two center backs. I don't actually think it would be too difficult to transition back to these players, especially since a lot of these players do have senior national team experience. But I
Even if you throw in a player, if you throw in Alexis Vega's playing yesterday, I still think there's something there without the system, that something's happening, right? Just because you have Alexis Vega and Orbelin. Yes, Alexis Vega is doing great against U23 players. Orbelin has done that. Like Orbelin is a good player. Look what he did last night. He didn't have a good game either. That's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily, if you put in one or the other, there's something going on with Tata's team right now. I think somebody else said Cordova. What Cordova are you going to get? The one that's really good, or the one that just, se apaga?
Yeah, we're still waiting for him to be more consistent.
I think the discussion with some of these players in the Olympic team, like a Vega, for example, he doesn't have really any. What was his first cap against Panama? I mean, first senior cap, which is like technically his first senior cap, because it was really the Olympic team, right? I mean, it was essentially the Olympic team's pre-Olympics friendly, right? So he has technically, if I'm pretty sure here, 0 senior caps, really, right? I mean, he's not going to jump into the starting lineup for the Jamaica game, right? Regardless of how impressive he's been at the Olympics. But I think someone like him, Lainez now does have some experience, right, in the senior team. And Tecatito hasn't looked great at this Gold Cup. I think neither of those guys are starters right now, again, for Jamaica, but I think they're, a good performance too off the bench in a big World Cup qualifier, and they're really knocking on the door.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I don't necessarily think any of these Olympics guys are like, oh yeah, send in our Olympics. There's something going on with these teams. It's the competition. I think I feel like that pressure is getting to Tata. One other thing that we haven't talked about is the decision of the FMF to have so many friendlies before this game. These guys have been together since for 2 months. Right off, Orbelin won, and 2 days later he had to be already in LA. Then he had to be in Nashville, and then he had to be in Atlanta, and then like 4 friendlies before. Then you have a Gold Cup, 3 games in 1 week. They look tired. Tata looked gassed, and you saw it in the Gold Cup. Herrera, minute 55, just didn't have any more legs.
Yeah.
You saw Funes Mori also being very tired. So also the planning. Remember when we said, Greg, well, the U.S. coach said, let's give these guys a summer because they've been playing a lot and send these guys in. And if we win, we win. We lose, we lose. I mean, he's looking like a genius because look at what happened in Mexico. You were together for 2 months and you got Chucky injured. They didn't win the Gold Cup. We look now, we're kind of lost before the World Cup qualifiers. And now people are starting to panic. And that was all the direction of the suits at the FMF saying, hey, let's do this. Let's schedule all these games. Granted, sure, the pandemic didn't help, and they scheduled, believe me, I know, so many different games in 1 month. But this is one of the worst summers we've had as Mexico fans because of the two losses and because what happened with Chucky. And it could all be because of planning. So sorry being so today.
No. That's, it's fair to be, and it's also, it is tough because it's even, it's even tough for you and Amy just to I know it seems like a dream situation, but just for you to do all this work to cover all these matches because it almost feels like it's a club team, when you really look at the schedule, it does feel like it's a club team. And I've said it before and I think this year is another example that someone needs to crunch numbers on this, but I don't think there's a national team out there that's more busy in world soccer than the Mexican national team.
Or 40 matches in 1 year.
Yeah, and it's
last October when I saw it, when I was putting some numbers in.
Yeah, and I can imagine for a lot of these players, it could be tough. If you have friendlies and you have Nations League and you have the Gold Cup and you're gonna have World Cup qualifiers, and then you look at league, and then you. Yeah, and then you go back to your Liga MX team, and you have to do Leagues Cup, or you have to do the CCL, and then, or maybe you play the Campeón de Campeones, and maybe you'll do the Campeones. It's just it is a little, it is a little much sometimes. You can even feel overwhelmed as a fan. So yeah, I think it's
lots of games
for some of these players. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna be fine. We'll be in the World Cup. That's all that matters, right? We might struggle. We might have have the playoff game again. By the way, does anybody know who we're playing the playoff games that the Concacaf has to do in this World Cup qualifiers?
Oh, that's a good question.
Can anybody tell us on the chat? Just Google it. Who does Concacaf play? Who does Concacaf play if it's that fourth spot? So, because I don't think it's South America.
I think it's to be determined, actually. According to Wikipedia, I might be wrong. It's Wikipedia, so it says the four teams from the four confederations are to be drawn into 2 ties.
Oh,
obviously, but maybe they're gonna do. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
All right, let's. Wow, we already did a whole hour of just talking to the national team. We'll definitely. Thanks for staying on. There's a lot of you guys out there. Mexico's playing Brazil. Okay, really quick. Mexico beats Brazil, and we're in another final, and we lose another final. That's 4 finals lost for me this time.
That's if we make it to the final, that's fine. If we make it to the, I'm happy.
I don't care. All right, I'm just telling you, we make it to the final and we lose another final. That's a lot of finals losses.
Hey, that's a silver medal. There we go.
It is.
Still,
you're right. It's a silver
better
medal.
than 4th place.
Maybe that's never. But as a Suns fan, I'm tired of losing finals. It's been a rough summer, guys. Yesterday, walking by myself, and I'm like, man, it's like you do all this, and then no.
The Suns have never won a final.
Yeah, you need more of Cesar's silver linings. When was the last time the Suns had made the NBA Finals?
You know what? It's because I have not seen Cesar since 2 years.
You need my annoying optimism.
I told the guys yesterday, Tom, Cesar, Amy, and I said, when we were covering all of us 4 together in the press box, we never lost, no finals. We were all together, and I'm not blaming anybody, but anyways.
You just need my annoying optimism, man.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about, like I said, the Olympics. I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great game. Brazil. We know we have history with Brazil in senior, in under 23. I know Brazil, when I was trying to look at press from Brazil for today, and the respect, that's what's cool about, right? Maybe in CONCACAF, they don't respect us, right? Because we beat them most of the time, because I know Central American teams and obviously the U.S. team because of the rivalry. But there are teams that do respect Mexico, and one of them is Brazil. Knowing that, yes, they could surprise from the Confederations Cup win to some games over the Confederations around the mid-2000s. Sure, some friendlies, Brazil has totally like just killed us, but the Olympic 2012. So I think it's going to be an interesting game. I want to see what they do. I think they're the underdogs just because I was trying to look at some of the games that Brazil have played. They played really good football. I want to see how this team goes out. They've looked really well at the beginning of the games, except against Japan, and I think they were just completely surprised. I think Jaime Lozano was completely surprised. Obviously, I want them to win. I'm already preparing, for that loss right there. Just all right, let's just forget. Okay, Olympic team didn't do anything, but I want to hear you guys. What do you expect this team? If they don't win, is it another fracaso?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's you're playing for a medal, right? You're trying to win the gold medal, obviously, but I think I would trade fourth place for if you tell me that the people we're talking about here on this team, the Vegas, the two center backs, Lainez, if they all can come into the senior side and end up having really successful national team careers, right? I think that's the most important thing. I mean, this is at the end of the day, it's still a U23 tournament, essentially, this time U24 tournament.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most important, I think for Mexico, bar a disastrous loss tonight, right?
7-0 Brazil.
Exactly. Bar a really pathetic performance. I think this is already has been a really successful.
They go against the loser Japan and Spain, right?
Yeah,
for a bronze. It's like the only time you want to be in third place.
Yeah, no, I think as long as they don't embarrass themselves against Brazil, I think they will. And I think if they let's say they finish in third, I'd be happy with that. And I think more than anything else, I think because of the fact that this is mostly a U23 tournament, I think you look at this. Maybe even, I mean, obviously the results help. Obviously, it's only going to help an athlete to get a medal here or potentially win it all. But I think just the experience for a lot of these younger players to be taking part in a competition like this and to kind of hopefully carry over that confidence over to their club side and also potentially over to the senior national team. And I think that the fact that they've made it this far in the tournament, I think that's already a success in itself. So I think as long as they don't stumble at the end here, then I'm happy with it.
I think they're at where
as long as they don't stumble. As long as they don't stumble, like at the end here, I'm happy with it.
I don't necessarily think that if they lose tonight, I don't think it's a success.
Yeah. Oh, I guess
unless
it all
they win the bronze. They lose and now they have to go against Japan or Spain, or it's going to be hard, and they're going to want their medal. Like
I guess
it's going to be hard. They lose and then they win. I think we're good. They lose and they lose. Who do they beat? A France that wasn't ready, right? A South Africa that was 6-3, and they lost against a good Japan.
I think in a situation like this, I think just finishing in the top four, because once again, it is a U23 tournament. I think more than anything, it's just the experience, I guess, of these players being able to take this trip and I know it sounds like I'm about to pull out my acoustic guitar here around a campfire and sing the Kumbaya, but just but I think that in itself, I think that I would be quite happy with it. Yeah.
Look, just like Paul's saying right now, it's a success that these guys. Well, it's a success that the young players are exposure to go to Europe. Sure, you're right. I think that's the only people are watching these games. I've already seen a ton of press on Alexis Vega, having an amazing tournament. Right. I mean, when Uriel Antuna looks really, really good, this is good. But I was thinking when you guys are talking about look at Alexis Vega. I'm like, we go back to what they're doing with all the Chivas players and how they completely play differently in Chivas and then go and play in U23. But we'll see.
Well, I think just quickly on that. I mean, I said it the last time I was on. I think that's probably the case more with Antuna than Vega. I think Vega is in 2021. Certainly the last 5-6 months, if you're looking the back half of the Guardianes 2021, and then now with this Olympic tournament, he's carrying on. The only reason, basically the only reason Chivas qualified for the Repechaje was Alexis Vega, right? I mean, he was crucial for them in that little win streak they had at the back end of the season. He was the one who was making the difference either with the goals or the assists. So I think you're seeing someone, it's not a flash in the pan here, right? It's not, he's having a couple really good games here at the Olympics. I think he's kind of coming out of nowhere in the sense that I don't think, you weren't seeing him linked to European teams. You weren't seeing, it seemed like a Takefusa Kubo, for example, after the Japan game, like, oh, I've never really seen Alexis Vega, but this guy's really good. He should be in Europe, right? I mean, kind of an unknown for a lot of people outside of the Mexican soccer sphere, who's really, really impressing. And I think, there are other examples of guys who will hopefully earn a move to Europe here, if they're released by their clubs, right? If everything works out there.
So, yeah, we see. So we'll see. By the way, and then maybe I should have been tracking it, but another Mexican player moved to Europe today, announced. Was it? Did I just see that? Something went through. All right.
It wasn't the dude from Gibraltar that you're talking about, right?
No,
it can't be that guy.
Celta de Vigo. Was it? Just all right. Maybe not. Maybe
Oh, really? Huh. I guess I was kind of like, to be fair, usually after like nights like last night, I'm like, the last thing I'm gonna do is look at some the many negative notifications that I get. So I haven't spent too much time on Twitter.
No, you want to talk about like my luck? I'm at the airport in Las Vegas. This is what I'm wearing. Like, I literally just got home and walking through the airport. I see my Phoenix flight. I just look at there. I'm like, all right, it's the end. And guess who stands right behind me, ready to board that plane? Just guess. Throw it out there. Mr. Alexi Lawless.
Oh, no.
And I look, and he's like, hey, how's it going? And I'm like, oh, he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't watch Mexican soccer. I'm like, hey, Alexi, I don't think you know who I am. And he goes, oh, I know who you are.
Oh, man.
I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. Somebody's saying you're kidding, and I knew people wouldn't believe me. So
did you take a photo with him?
I did take a photo. And you can still see my picture right there.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm not posting it, by the way. But no, I'm not kidding. And regardless of your thoughts on Alexi Lawless, the guy knows what he's doing. He's like the Faitelson in the U.S. He hates on the U.S. He hates, and he said horrible things. But talking to him, it was just kind of like, that's all I needed. Can I just leave Las Vegas already with Alexi Lawless, who apparently cried last yesterday, and as you know, Alexi Lawless is like Lawless, but I had a conversation with him about Mexico, and he's like, "Do you really think Tata's gonna leave if it got?" And, almost the same conversation that I had, but that has been my luck with Mexico. All right, but yeah, he was actually kind of really nice. He said, "Hey, if you ever need anything, let me know. I see what you guys are doing, and so hey, look, we're relevant." Even though one day when Trump got taken out of Twitter, my first tweet was, "Now do Alexi Lawless."
Oh, man.
And it went viral. And then I got a reply from Alexi Lawless, and it's like, "I'm still here." And I'm like, whoops. Anyway, yeah, you guys are all laughing, guys. All right. So what happened tonight? I want to hear predictions. Did anybody say predictions over here? I saw like a 4-2 Brazil, 4-2 Mexico, or 3-2 Brazil. No more. What do you guys say happens?
Midnight, I'm gonna start to feel a little sleepy, and I'm like, should I make myself some tea? I'm like, I can make myself some tea, then I'll drink some tea, then I'll regret it halfway through the game, and then Brazil wins 2-1.
Brazil goes through.
I think Mexico 2-1.
Owen,
all right,
the optimism.
I hope I'm wrong.
Mexican soccer show.
I want to be right. I mean, if I'm right, it's doubly awesome, right? I mean.
Well, I just hope I'm wrong. Let's just say, please let me.
Yeah.
I really do hope I'm wrong.
I've been horribly off with my predictions, so I think Brazil beats Mexico, and I think we know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have no hope right now. It's like I really thought my last 3 finals, we were good, but we'll see. All right, what do you guys send through on Mexico? Ochoa Magic. Oh, that's right. Ochoa is
True.
There. Ochoa is there.
So we're gonna stop the view. I was like, dude, he's still there? Like, wait, that guy? Look now, look at the hair. It's him.
It's him. Hold on. We got 2-1 Mexico from Tino Fazer. We have Gabriel saying 2-1, or Gabriel, sorry. Us 2-1 Mexico. Uribe 2-1 Mexico. All right, you guys are 3-1 Mexico. Ochoa Magic. All right.
Dang, is he saying Ochoa's going to score? That's what he's implying, right?
Ochoa scored.
Up from the back.
Joanna, that's not a prediction. But it's going to be a lot of goals.
That's a
Okay.
prediction. I count that as a prediction.
Okay. Roma's going to ball out. Mexico wins. Oh, there it is. Brazil 3-2 with a lot of goals. You know,
I mean, that is a lot of goals.
1-1 goes to penalty kicks. Do they go to penalty kicks right away? We really need to do our research on these.
I don't know. These games, yeah. This
This is what happens.
this could be the first game we watch.
They go to extra time. They go to
Okay.
Okay. That's Owen's here. Okay, cool. All right, guys. Well, we've been way over. This is probably the longest Mexican soccer show, but it was definitely warranted.
It was therapeutic. We needed some sort of needed like a little therapy session after. Yeah, exactly.
I needed some vents, you know. No, I was talking to a Mexico reporter, Kike. Enrique. He's a great follower of the national team. We've been together for a while, following the national team to all the games, and you know, he told me, you know, he was so mad. You know, you can tell, like, even though you're supposed to be neutral, like, this is your team and you want them to do well, and especially when you're working so hard and then they don't do well, you're just like, I have to write a story, and you just don't want to do it, right? But one of the things he said was, he's like, look, you know, we'll get into the qualifiers. We're in Mexico, and hopefully we'll be right. We'll be in the World Cup. But I told him, I'm like, us in the U.S., when we lose to the U.S., it hurts like way more, because here's all our friends that don't necessarily watch soccer, that knows that you like soccer, and that are probably gringos that don't watch any soccer, that are blowing up your phone. The U.S. won. I'm like, you don't even like soccer. Or like we hear it. We hear it more. We suffer more in the U.S. when it comes to when we use the U.S.
Like, it's actually, bro, isn't that Mexico's like top sport? Be like, hey, it's complicated. We can't get into this right now.
You'll get into that. Well, you know, if only our best athletes played soccer. Hang up the phone. All right, Owen, a pleasure. Actually, you know what? We want to. We got a lot of messages that you didn't put Nas in your top 5 on our last.
I swear I put Nas in there. See, that's the thing. I remember, like, I thought I had mentioned Nas. Like, I at least wanted to, because I mentioned AZ, and like Nas and him are a duo. So like I at least like kind of parenthetically mentioned Nas. I feel like, even though I didn't actually shout him out.
Okay, all right.
I'd put him in my top 5. I actually would have Nas in my top 5.
Okay.
Just skip my mind.
Yeah, everyone was kind of talking about that.
Yeah,
so.
I was getting some heat for it for sure.
Yeah, up and coming rappers, Owen, that you're seeing right now, nobody's talking about.
Oh, up and coming. I don't really follow like new rap that much.
All right.
Like, I couldn't really give you any.
Jeez, yeah, I have no idea. I'm so out of the loop when it comes to just any new music in general.
We're just old. Never mind.
We are getting old.
We're just getting there. Gustavo was saying Nas top 5. You gotta look at the Twitter mentions, because people were freaking out because we didn't say that.
Just for Illmatic, I mean, on its own, I think he's got other great albums too. But he has, you know, what's widely considered the best album ever, right? Without a lot of like press that was backing at the time, right? He was like 20. I mean, I think you know, it's top 5 worthy for that. Yeah,
as long as Rakim and Under 3000 is there, I'm good. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Lots of you were on. I think we had like over 65 people that were joining at the same time when I was ranting and I was angry. So this is why I think we need a little more angry. We saw there, but you won't see me that far. Cesar, again, thanks again.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
For coming in. Stay up. Let's watch the game. We'll be on the chat. What happens that hour between 12 and 1? Weird things start to happen with Liga MX saying after dark. Just let you know. You know, like people are like, "What are we doing for the next hour?" So Owen, you know, you're gonna wake up.
here's my only fan account.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Amy starts tweeting some weird stuff, and people are like, "What are we doing for the next?" And then so just kind of out there. Owen's gonna wake up early because it's like what 3-4 o'clock for you.
Yeah, so it's gonna be it's at 4 a.m. on the East Coast.
Yeah, it's what we were talking about, man. Like even if for us it's gonna be tough. So. Do you go to bed if Mexico's losing 3-1 at halftime? I don't know. Maybe.
I might. I'm not gonna.
Maybe it's 1:45 and So
we'll I'll stay up to tell you guys what happened then.
There we go.
I'm gonna stay up.
Boom.
I got you guys.
Great stream, guys. We're winning tomorrow. All right, there's some positive news from Jaws. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for joining. We'll continue this. Thank you for all the great love on Twitter, on Instagram, and all our socials for the Mexican Talk Show. And we'll continue to give you the news. There's not that many people that are doing it in English. Thanks for retweeting and liking and letting people know about our podcast. If you're listening to us on Spotify, thank you, and also the Mexican Talk Show on your Apple Podcast. Thank you. César, nos vemos. Owen, a pleasure. Y como decimos, hasta la próxima.